Welcome to Inquisition Update. My name's Tom Fress, and I'll be your host for the next hour. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Thanks for tuning in. Yesterday we concluded our discussion, or rather the reading of the book, The Global Vatican by Ambassador Francis Rooney, describing the influence that the Vatican applied during the Cairo conference. This book demonstrating the global influence of the Vatican. Obviously, if the Vatican is the head of the global government, there's evidence of its involvement all over the globe. And now, having dealt with the Cairo conference and the Pope's influence there, we move on to other areas of the world. Beginning on the second full paragraph on page 173, if you're following along in your own copy of the book, we'll continue. He says, occasional disputes aside, the 6 American ambassadors who served before me facilitated and in many instances initiated a broad range of cooperation. That means a broad range of cooperation with the Vatican. He says the United States and the Holy See work together on international peace solutions, as in 1999, when the Vatican brought together ambassadors from NATO countries to explore peace initiatives in Kosovo. We also work together through collaborations with the United States Agency for International Development, that is the USAID, and Catholic Relief Services, to bring aid to places like Zambia and Haiti faced with the scourge of AIDS and other diseases like malaria. Since 25% of all AIDS care and treatment occurs within or by means of a Catholic-related healthcare institution, and let me just tell you, most healthcare institutions in this country are related to the Catholic Church. It's the Roman Catholic Church that interposes itself in all medical facilities in this country to adopt Roman Catholic ethics. Okay? Ethics is just another word to describe Roman Catholic canon law. So Roman Catholic canon law is being forced in all medical institutions in this country, and even those institutions that call themselves Protestants. You know, there are Methodist hospitals and Presbyterian hospitals and Baptist hospitals and Seventh-day Adventist hospitals all over this country. But they're trying to develop a uniform system of ethics for all the hospitals. And those ethics come from Roman Catholic canon law. So they're all Catholic-related health institutions. It says, since 25% of all AIDS care and treatment occurs within or by means of a Catholic-related healthcare institution, that's anywhere you choose to get health care, it's Catholic-related. The United States, the greatest engine of charity in the world, says the author. I don't call the forced redistribution of the world's wealth charity at all, but that's what it is. You are taxed. You must pay your taxes or go to jail and have your property confiscated to support this funding. And it's the government that is controlled by the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican that spends your money in these foreign charities and bringing solutions to other parts of the world and imposing Roman Catholic canon law in those parts of the world. Do you comprehend what I'm saying? You must pay your taxes. Okay, that's ground rule. That's rule number one. You either pay your taxes or you go to jail. You've got no say over how your tax money is spent. That is theft. And if the government takes your money by force at threat of jail and threat of property confiscation, and then redistributes your wealth to Roman Catholic countries, or worse, free countries in the world that are being forced to impose Roman Catholic canon law on its people, you are actually fighting a Roman Catholic crusade. Do you understand? You are an instrument of the advancement of Roman Catholicism, Roman Catholicism all over this world, and they call it charity. Okay? This is theft. I hope my listeners can understand what I'm saying. If your government needs your tax money to advance Roman Catholic canon law and Roman Catholic ethics all over the world, then you are nothing but a slave. It becomes a violation of your conscience to pay your taxes. It becomes a violation of your allegiance with Christ and your repudiation of Antichrist to pay your taxes. You've got no control over how your money is spent once it leaves your pocket. And if you don't let it out of your pocket to the government, you go to jail. That's how corrupt our system is. That's how Romanist our system is. It's not charity. You can call it charity till the cows come home, but it is not charity. It's theft. Pure and simple. It says since 25% of all AIDS care and treatment occurs within or by means of a Catholic-related healthcare institution, the United States, the greatest engine of theft in the world, and the Holy See, the greatest thief in the world's preeminent humanitarian organizations are natural patterns in fighting AIDS, malaria, and other pernicious diseases affecting the world's poor. Now, somebody's going to accuse me of not being charitable. Somebody's going to say that Tom is implying that our tax money goes to promote Roman Catholicism and it's not charity at all, and therefore we shouldn't pay our taxes and we shouldn't take care of the sick and the poor around the world. That's not at all what I said. God commands us to be charitable, to do unto others as we would have them to do unto us, but not at the benefit of the advancement of Roman Catholicism and popery around the world, not to the benefit of a global satanic government headed up by the man of sin, the son of perdition in Rome. So the pressure must be put on our government that our money should not go to advance a global government at the cost of our national sovereignty and at the cost of our very faith in Jesus Christ. Okay, but this book is telling you, if you listen carefully to the words that he's saying and use a little thought in the process, he's telling you plainly that the entire system of charity in this country is corrupt. It is Vatican-oriented. Okay, it serves the papacy. And they call it charity. This is consistent with what Pope Benedict XVI wrote in his encyclical Caritas in Veritate. That everything in this world, whether it is privately owned or not, that is your house, your car, your land, everything, has upon it a prior social mortgage. Okay? And he describes further that that prior social mortgage is determined by the goodwill and the common benefit of mankind. And if you take it to its final destination, what Caritas and veritate means is that all of the earth's goods, you can just sit there and imagine all day long what those goods are. They make no exception of to what is considered the goods of this earth. So all of your private property, whether you're paying a mortgage on your house or a lien on your car, it has upon it a prior social mortgage, which means that if someone comes along who has need and you have excess, what they determine is excess, then your neighbor's free, seeing that he has need. He has the liberty to take whatever you have that is excess. And not only that, but if your neighbor has a neighbor that has need, your neighbor can come and take from what you have and give it to his neighbor. That's caritas and veritate. That's charity and truth. All of the world's goods are shared in common. No one has a perfect ownership of anything. Not even your own children. Okay? The state can come in and take your children under any pretense that it can justify. And, well, not even if it can't justify, as in the case of Tony Alamo Christian Ministries. So, now you have a full understanding of what charity represents in the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope, through caritas and veritate, Roman Catholic social doctrine, the Pope is made the world's Robin Hood in a literal sense, not figuratively, literally. He is the arbiter and judge of all matters, civil and religious, and the earth and all of its goods are his and his alone. And that prior social mortgage is managed by the papacy, and it is enforced by the civil power. Remember the description in Revelation chapter 17 of the woman riding the beast representing the government, which carries the woman, the church, the Roman Catholic Church, and she controls the beast. This is exactly the way this manifests in reality. I've been describing it since the program began, how the beast, that is the civil powers, carry the Roman Catholic Church, and she determines which direction the beast goes. Now, if the Pope says, the head of the woman says that the earth is mine and the fullness thereof, and I can redistribute my wealth as I see fit, and we're going to call it charity, despite God's commandment, thou shalt not steal. So now, theft, which is renamed charity under caritas and veritate, now becomes the law of God. And the law of God is dispensed with. Thou shalt not steal is dispensed with, done away with. It is the Pope, and the civil government that carries her that determines what is theft and what is not. Now, if you have in your possession and ownership anything that you claim is yours, and you deny it to someone who says they have need, then you are the thief. You become the thief, and then you become subject to the civil power, which the Bible says is to reward good and to punish evil. And there also comes with that a warning of those who call good evil and evil good. I hope I haven't confused my listeners, but we dealt specifically with caritas and veritate and other papal encyclicals that form the foundation for this godless New World Order, this godless New World Order, this satanic New World Order, this papal New World Order. All right. Now, in the name of charity, we have to help those with AIDS and all malaria and all these other disadvantaged nations. But I ask the question: once that money leaves your hand, what accountability do you have for it? Can you assure me that the government of the United States actually uses that money to help AIDS victims all over the world, malaria victims all over the world? Or is that money diverted? Once it's laundered, does it get diverted into buying weapons for the militias around the world that are stirring up trouble to advance Roman Catholic governments around the world? We know of all the wars that have been fought in Africa. That's Rome's attempt to conquer Africa and to make it part of the Pope's New World Order. What crimes are committed in this world by your charitable giving? What sins are cloaked and covered in the name of charity, which you must now concede is not charity at all? It is theft, government-sponsored theft. God didn't command us to do this. This is man's perversion of God's law. And of course, if you're a church-going Christian today, you come to the church and they tell you that God's law is dead. All right? In other words, they've crucified God's law and are elevating the Pope's law. Who are we going to serve? Can we just hide our heads in the sand and pretend this doesn't exist? And somehow gain the favor of our God, who we profess with our mouth, but who we do not serve? This is the great moral question for the United States of America. This book identifies many moral positions that God's people should and ought to take in this world against this woman and the beast upon which she rides. This book is all about how the woman rides the beast, how the Roman Catholic Church controls the governments of the world. All right, this great engine of charity, the United States of America, in cooperation with the Holy See, the world's preeminent humanitarian organization. And if that's not the greatest contradiction in the world, I can't describe one better. Describing the Holy See as the world's preeminent humanitarian organization, our natural partners in fighting AIDS, malaria, and other pernicious diseases affecting the world's poor. So in the name of helping the poor, we're advancing the Roman Catholic canon law, Roman Catholic ethics. Look, and if a government becomes dependent upon the charitable giving of the United States, what happens to that nation if it's withdrawn? What happens to that nation if it's withdrawn? I've already given you the possibility that that money never goes to help the AIDS patients, but a good portion of it is funneled off to help arm militias. Okay, that's the history of the Roman Catholic Church. You took church money and goods that were given to the church by Roman Catholics to wage crusades. That's how the Pope spent their money. To conquer all lands for the Pope. To persecute the Waldenses. Is that what our charitable money is used for? To persecute real Christians in these foreign lands? Can you show me any evidence that it's not? He deceives the whole world. The Bible tells us he deceives the whole world. He turns that which is good into that which is evil. And our government assists. It is their primary occupation to serve the papacy, to advance this global government of the Pope, and to do it in the name of charity. He says, obviously, this cooperation between the United States and the Holy See, This cooperation and opportunity for mutual goodwill took off under the administration of President George W. Bush, whose emergency plan for AIDS relief programs brought unprecedented resources to these health problems in Africa. So because of George W. Bush, this caritas in veritate, this charitable giving, took place under the administration of George W. Bush, an oath-spitting papist, an oath-spitting knight of skull and bones, under Jesuit control. He professed himself to be a Christian, and that's all Americans needed to just flood every charitable cause with contributions advanced by George W. Bush. It's just an unspeakable horror what has happened in this country. He says, like AIDS and infectious diseases, human trafficking is a devastating international problem. Wouldn't you like to give to an organization that would prevent human trafficking, the enslavement of men and women and children into the sex industry? Oh, that's a praiseworthy endeavor, right? Do you give then to a Roman Catholic charity to do that when its priests are pedophiles? When its priests are global pedophiles, and every nation in the world has raised this outcry of priest debauchery of children in schools and in healthcare institutions. Canada itself has named tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of victims of children in mental retarded institutions, taking care of mentally retarded children of the native Canadians, have been debauched by the Roman Catholic priests and the nuns, and have literally been made merchandise to service the sexual depravities of the most powerful people in Europe, including the Queen of England. This book, written by this Roman Catholic author, is going to tell us now that the greatest moral authority in this world is primarily concerned about human trafficking. And you're going to believe it too, when it has an 1,800-year history of abusing God's people, men, women, and children. Every atrocity known to man. The world's going to believe it, that this Pope is a moral power in the world, and he's so concerned about human trafficking. He says, like AIDS and infectious diseases, human trafficking is a devastating international problem, though it often receives less attention than other crises. An estimated 27 million people are victims of trafficking worldwide. Wonder how Rome knows this. Just ask yourself the question, how does Rome know how many people are involved in this sex trafficking business? He says an estimated 27 million people are victims of trafficking worldwide. By far the highest rate of trafficking occurs in Asia and the Pacific region, but Africa has a growing problem. Lest Westerners dismiss this as a foreign scourge rather than domestic. Listen, it's a domestic scourge in the United States of America. And that scourge was made public back in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. Roman Catholic priests. You know, what was the other book? I haven't read it on Inquisition Update yet, but it was the Franklin cover-up. If you've known anything about the Franklin cover-up, that was run out of Omaha, Nebraska. And the center of all the attention was the Roman Catholic charity called Boys Town, a refuge for boys. And it was members of Boys Town that were trafficked And part of that trafficking even took place in Washington, D.C. And in payment, these trafficked children got a free tour, a free midnight tour of the White House. And it was even publicized in the paper. Are your eyes getting open? We'll be back right after this. Welcome back from the break. You're listening to the second half hour of Inquisition Update on First Amendment Radio. If you'd like to support Inquisition Update, please support First Amendment Radio, who sponsors the program. And if you'd like to contact me directly, please do so by email. My email address is tom@seawaves.us. tom@seawaves.us. All right, the subject is human trafficking, a great moral concern for the papacy. Why is it a moral concern for the papacy? Well, because it doesn't want the world to find out that Rome actually runs human trafficking around the world, just like Rome runs the drug trade. Okay? I mean, how easy is it to trust an organization that claims to be so concerned about the moral implications of human trafficking and wants to do something about it, when nobody is allowed to realize that the papacy runs it? Okay? You think that's an outrageous accusation? Just study some of the history of the Roman Catholic papacy. I recommend the book Vicars of Christ, The Dark Side of the Papacy, actually written by a Jesuit priest, of all people. That's right, Vicars of Christ, The Dark Side of the Papacy. You can get it for a few bucks on eBay, a used copy, just a few bucks. You can also get a copy of The Franklin Cover-Up, a book that I highly recommend, but give a caution. It's very, very intense. It's very, very revealing, and that book is liable to offend a lot of people. But the primary concern I have about that book, The Franklin Cover-Up, is that its author is Roman Catholic. And the people that he lauds in his book, like the director of the CIA, he too is a Roman Catholic. Not only that, but a Knight of Malta. And that book, while it reveals human trafficking in this country, and even admits that the center of that human trafficking was centered at Boys Town University, the charitable organization run by the Roman Catholic Church, an orphanage for boys, they covered up any liability of Boys Town or the priest that runs Boys Town. Now, if you're in the mood to learn some of the nuts and bolts operation of the Roman Catholic Church in human trafficking, I highly recommend the book. Given the cautions that I've already given you about that book, get a copy of The Franklin Cover-Up. The Franklin Cover-Up. You can get it used on eBay or other used book outlets for just a few bucks. It'll cost you more for shipping than it will be for the book. Very eye-opening book. But here, this Roman Catholic author, standing on his bully pulpit, and claiming to be a charitable organization, defending his church, is going to give you a load of malarkey here. So just take it for what it's worth. He said, like AIDS and infectious diseases, human trafficking is a devastating international problem. Why is it an international problem? Because the Roman Catholic Church is global. The Roman Catholic Church is international. Just like the drug trafficking in the world is international, because the Roman Catholic Church is international. And so are all of its sister organizations like Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, all the secret societies. They're the ones that run all of this debauchery for the Roman Catholic Church. He says it's an international problem, though it often receives less attention than other crises. An estimated 27 million people are victims of trafficking worldwide. By far, the highest rate of trafficking occurs in Asia and the Pacific region, but Africa has a growing problem. Lest Westerners, that is, just to prevent Westerners Dismissing this as a foreign scourge, the numbers tell a different story. At least 1.5 million trafficking victims live in virtual bondage in Europe and North America, right where Roman Catholicism is the most powerful. Okay? You see, he's painting this glowing picture of the Vatican wanting to stop this scourge when it is Roman Catholicism that runs it, the Vatican. The woman that rides the beast. The beast protects the woman, doesn't it? So the government is helping. That is, the press in the United States, the government-controlled press is helping to cover up Vatican involvement in these debaucheries. All right. He says the United States and the Holy See share a deep commitment to ending human trafficking. I ran out of bridges on the moon a long time ago. He says this goal was championed by my immediate predecessor, Jim Nicholson, who took nascent programs and brought attention and increased resources to bear on exposing both generators and abusers of trafficked human beings. Listen, the Roman Catholic Church only exposes those who are competing with Rome for drug trafficking, like Noriega, and human trafficking. All right? This great war on drugs is only a war against those who are competing with the CIA Vatican world drug trade. And it's got to be the same fashion in the war against human trafficking. It's to protect Rome's interest in the human trafficking trade. But look, most people haven't forgotten, because they never knew to begin with, slavery was the main money-making industry for the Jesuits. You wonder where the slaves came from to the United States? They didn't swim over here. They were brought here by the Jesuits in their Jesuit slave trading operations. Now, they got some Muslims promising them great riches to round up Bible-believing Christians in northern Africa. Okay? Rome was in competition with the true Bible-believing Christians, the blacks in northern Africa that accepted the gospel. So they used some Muslims, guaranteeing them eventual control of northern Africa if they would round up all these Bible-believing Christians, put them on the Jesuit slave ships, and take them to the United States to be sold. Human trafficking was created by the Vatican. Human trafficking, the commerce in human souls is one of the great sustaining money-making operations for the Vatican. It always has been. And what does the Pope do? Stand on his bully pulpit in front of all the cameras of the world and denounce slavery. And in some of the descriptions that I'm making about, especially our recent discussion about how your taxes are confiscated by the government and used to advance this global government around the world and persecute God's people, don't you feel like a slave? Enslavement is the primary operation of the Vatican. Spiritual enslavement and temporal enslavement. That's Satan's business. And Satan's man is the papacy. Don't pay any attention to the pious words of this book. History, the facts of history, make it all rubbish. Especially when it comes to human trafficking. He says the United States and the Holy See share a deep commitment to ending human trafficking. Is that right? My Bible says the woman rides the beast. And the beast carries the woman wherever she wants to go and tramples God's people with his iron feet. That's what my Bible tells me. Am I supposed to throw away my Bible like the rest of the so-called evangelibellies in the world and pronounce and carry the water for the Pope as reading this book of what a humanitarian the papacy is? I'm not going to be a part of that. Inquisition Update is about telling the truth, the bitter, wicked truth. And God help it not to fall on deaf ears. The United States, the beast, and the Holy See, the woman, share a deep commitment to ending human trafficking. You gotta be kidding me! And the world's gonna buy this lie. And they're going to splatter all over the television anytime they bust up a human trafficking, and they're going to attribute it all to the Pope, aren't they? And the world's going to believe it. He says this goal was championed by my immediate predecessor, and obviously an ambassador to the Holy See, Jim Nicholson, who took nascent programs and brought attention and increased resources to bear on exposing both generators and abusers of trafficked human beings. We leveraged Secretary Nicholson's work throughout 2005 through 2008 to expand the program, working closely with Sister Eugenia Benetti of the Consolata Missionaries, widely recognized as one of the world's leaders in attacking this problem. He just named where this trafficking takes place. You got to know that Sister Eugenia Benetti is right elbow deep in this human trafficking thing, and whenever an opportunity arrives, remember the motto of the Roman Catholic Church is the ends justify the means. And if human trafficking can benefit the Roman Catholic Church, well, then it's all good. All right? He's putting on a pedestal Eugenia Benetti, this nun of the Roman Catholic Church, but you better believe she's no one to be lauded. He says, with the help of Embassy Vatican and the State Department, the U.S. State Department, Sister Eugenia has expanded her once modest anti-trafficking operation to include nuns working in 27 countries and operating 100 small shelters to give refuge and assistance to trafficking victims. Yeah, that's all in front of the camera. What do they do off camera? Okay, that's the question you need to be asking. He says, over the years, Sister Eugenia and her fellow nuns have rescued thousands. How many did they traffic? How many did they shuffle off to a needy priest someplace that hadn't debauched a child for over 30 days? The end justifies the means, right? While pretending in front of the cameras to be so charitable against human trafficking, they shuffle the little kiddies off to the priests. Okay? What crimes are done in the name of charity in this world? Look, I'll tell you something. When a dime leaves my pocket to help somebody, I carry that dime myself and deliver it to the hand that needs it. And if I want to remain anonymous, I find another secure way to make sure my money goes where it belongs. I don't support any organized charitable organization. They never give an account of where that money goes. Okay? They get tax exemption from the government, but you never know where your money goes. And especially Roman Catholic charities. The first to be suspected. Okay, when President and Mrs. Bush came to Rome in June of 2007, one of the events we organized was a breakfast hosted by my wife, Kathleen, to give Mrs. Bush a chance to sit down with Sister Eugenia. The president stopped by to meet her as well. The gathering was small, personal, and successful. The State Department subsequently increased funding support for our program. So you got the State Department supporting Roman Catholic charities. See? Now do you like it? When the tax collector comes and takes your taxes, you must pay these taxes or you go to jail. We can confiscate your property. So to maintain your freedom, you hand over the money and he takes it. Part of the money goes to the State Department and the State Department gives it to the Roman Catholic charity that traffics human beings. You see how you're enslaved? Aren't you proud to be an American citizen? I tell you what, I realize I have a dual citizenship. That's like serving two masters. One you will despise, and the other you will love. You cannot serve two masters. What master am I going to choose? Christ Jesus. Christ Jesus. And he sees all of this wickedness, sees everything that's hidden in the dark. And since I have repented, he's opening my eyes to that wickedness. And you ought to know about it too. So the State Department takes your money and gives it to Roman Catholic Charities without your consent. Isn't that taxation without representation? Isn't it? The work we did with the Holy See on trafficking was motivated by human compassion for the victims, but also by a broadly shared commitment to the concept of inalienable human rights. Oh, yes. The United States and the government and the Pope are all concerned about inalienable rights. Did you know the Patriot Act stripped you of every inalienable right? You don't have... Caritas and Veritate strip you of all private property? Are you going to believe this author when he says that the Holy See has a shared commitment with the government of the United States about inalienable human rights? The world will believe it. Will you believe it? He says, for the United States, the country which first explicitly encoded such rights as laws. You know who encoded those rights? The Protestant colonies. They're not in control anymore. The Roman Catholic Church is in control. Since Vatican Council II and the surrender, the capitulation by Protestants, Rome now controls the Constitution and how it's interpreted, especially when she has a supermajority of Roman Catholics on the Supreme Court. Now, it doesn't matter what they say out of their mouths on television. It's how the law is being applied, how the Constitution is being applied in this country. And you have no right to religious liberty. You have no right to freedom of speech. And I've experienced it myself on ham radio. If I talk about these things on ham radio, they jam me to oblivion and nobody can hear a word I say. And then they go after attacking my wife, me personally, try to destroy our reputation, the credibility, and absolutely make me a pariah. Defamation of character, slander, every tactic in the book. Until to the point where if I don't shut up on ham radio, people believe they're doing God's service to maliciously interfere with those transmissions so nobody can hear me. Do you know the government can come in your house at 3 o'clock in the morning without knocking, without a warrant, take you without your permission, hold you in a holding facility, deny you legal representation, and keep you there for as long as they want to, till your bones bleach in the sun? How is that not a violation of inalienable human rights? Do you know who used to do all that in the old world order? The papacy and the governments which it controlled. Came into the house 3 o'clock in the morning, hauled you out of bed, maybe debauched your wife and daughter and let you watch, and then haul you off to prison at the Inquisition and keep you without any charges, keep you without legal representation, torture you until they got a confession, and if you didn't confess, they killed you. Whoa, what's the difference? The New World Order is simply the Old World Order restored. It's the government that's going to impose Roman Catholic canon law on us heretics. Okay? Inalienable rights. There's no such thing as inalienable rights. In Roman Catholic canon law, the papacy is the fountain of rights. because he's the representative of God on the earth. And if the representative, the replacement of Christ on the earth, assigns you certain rights, then he can take them away. And he always takes them away for heretics. And you know who heretics are by a definition in Roman Catholic canon law? Those who believe the Bible. And your government has adopted Roman Catholic canon law. That was the Patriot Act. It strips you of all Protestant rights. He says, the work we did with the Holy See on trafficking was motivated by human compassion for the victims, do tell, but also by a broadly shared commitment to the concept of inalienable human rights. For the United States, the country which first explicitly coded such rights and laws, joined by the Holy See to assiduously and constantly curb violations of basic liberties around the world, wherever and in whatever form they arise, makes for a natural and potent alliance. Yeah, it's a natural and admittedly potent alliance between the United States government and the Vatican. You know what that means? In plain English, the United States government is helping to bring about a totalitarian government by the papacy. A global totalitarian government by the papacy. You see, Satan's going to get his wish. He's going to exalt his throne above the stars of God. He's going to be like the Most High. And he's going to do it through the papacy with the help of the United States government. Can you do the math? Can you think? Think in terms of what the Bible has revealed to us. A vivid color picture in Revelation chapter 17 undeniably identifies the papacy and the Roman Catholic Church as the beast of all beasts. He says the ultimate beneficiaries of Holy See U.S. cooperation are those fundamental freedoms which, once lost, are not easily regained. You can read this differently if you want, but I think it's an admission. If you receive your rights from the Pope or from this popish government, they can take them away. See, you need to be real careful from whose hand you eat. Kind of like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Kind of like Daniel. He wouldn't eat from the king's meat. What lessons we can learn from God's prophet. He says the ultimate beneficiaries of Holy See U.S. cooperation are those fundamental freedoms which, once lost, are not easily regained. You know, the Waldenses lost their freedoms. They lost their rights. And they didn't regain any, not until the Protestant Reformation. Not until the Protestant Reformation, when virtually all of Europe, even the Roman Catholic countries of Europe, were eventually eased from Roman Catholic papal control. Because the Pope, if he gives you anything, he expects the right to take it away. He says the ultimate beneficiaries of U.S. Holy See cooperation are those fundamental freedoms which, once lost, are not easily gained. And just as the American ideal has inspired the quest for human rights all around the world, including in years past within the Vatican itself, the Holy See now urges increasingly secular America to cherish these ideals and make sure we do not lose sight of them, especially when it comes to religious freedom. Oh, now the Pope is the harbinger, the great giver of human, or not only human rights, but religious freedom. Remember, if you take something from the Pope, he can take it back. You want religious freedom? You want to take it from the Pope? He says it reminds us of F.A. Hayek's, who writes in his classic, The Road to Serfdom, that, quote, if the democracies themselves abandon the supreme ideal of the freedom and happiness of the individual, if they implicitly admit that their civilizations, then they implicitly admit that their civilization is not worth preserving. Oh, I've run out of time. I'd love to develop this thought, but I'll have to do it next week. Come back to Inquisition Update for another eye-opening program.